Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. If you're interested in learning to trade successfully on sports, then why not visit the BetAngel Academy, where we have more detailed videos. So we're coming to the end of the football season. Another season is over, and many hopes have been dashed and many expectations raised for the new season. And as you all know, I'm a Southampton fan, have been since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as they say, and have been going for many years when I can. And you know the sort of pain and suffering you go through if you're not in a top 6 side. And but I still enjoy it and I still go. But I've got a story about relegation for you that you may not have heard before and may not be aware of. But it also contains a bit of irony as well, because I remember during the 2003 FA Cup final, turning to a friend of mine and just sort of saying, you know what, we've got this made. We're in the FA Cup final, we finished quite high in the league, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't remain here for a long, long time. And then what happened? 2 years later, we were relegated. So when I was at the EFL Cup final last year, somebody turned to me and said, you know what, we're getting higher and higher in the league, we're in Europe, and we're in the EFL Cup final, we're completely made. We are now a guaranteed sort of top 6 side. And I just went to stop right there. I said, because it wouldn't surprise me if next season we end up struggling and get relegated. And they all laughed. But it was the thought of what happened to us when that was last said that resonated with me at that particular moment in time. Now, as you know, this season we're at the bottom of the league, and as I record this video, I don't know if we are going to survive this year. But there's one thing that hasn't happened this year that happened when we were last relegated, which I'd like to talk to you about. So yeah, back when Southampton were last relegated, something very unusual happened, and it was a story that I thought I'd recall for you. Because it's quite funny, really. As you know, I've spent years looking at, understanding, modelling, profiling football matches and trying to get a real handle on exactly what creates a goal, how that gets played out, and how I can use that in order to be able to forecast matches better. So it's something I've done for many, many years. I started doing that in the 80s, and I've continued to progress that right up until now. But one of the unusual things about what happened when Southampton were last relegated was that I actually successfully predicted it a long time out, but not in the way that you would expect. What actually happened was back in January, because obviously the season ends in May, I suddenly woke up with a start one morning. Southampton had been in the top flight for many, many years, but I had a terrible dream that night that Southampton had been relegated, and it was so stark that I made a quick note of what the dream was all about. And the dream was about Southampton being relegated, but not just that. I actually played out the whole match in my head, and I could tell you what when the goal was scored, who scored it, and the fact that Southampton were relegated because of that. Now, I thought nothing of it. It was just, it was a nightmare. It wasn't a dream, it was a nightmare. And when I wrote down this information, I thought really nothing of it. But somebody on the Betfair forum posted up a message saying about people who have predicted the outcome of sporting events through dreams. It was called I Had a Dream or something like that. But again, I thought nothing of it. And because of the role that I have now, I don't tend to go and watch Southampton play much, apart from if it's a midweek or a Sunday. And I hadn't really thought much about the end of the season at that particular point and about the prospect of relegation. But as we got nearer and nearer towards the end of the season, it became apparent that probably we were going to be in a bit of a relegation battle. But again, I didn't think much of it because I didn't have a season ticket, and all of the tickets are allocated for the last game of the season, so I wasn't going to go anyway. So again, no thought ever entered my head about what had happened way back in January. However, I get a phone call out of the blue from an old school friend who says, I can't go because my dad's ill. Would you like my ticket? And you can go and watch the last match of the season. So I said to him, rather jokingly at the time, well, okay, I'm more than happy to take the ticket off of you, Paul, but I had a really weird dream about how Ruud van Nistelrooy scored in the 63rd minute and Southampton were relegated. And of course we both had a laugh about that. And I said to him, I'll take your season ticket, but just bear in mind, if this comes true, don't blame me. And upon having the ticket and reminding myself upon the stream, I went on to the Betfair forum and actually posted up a message before I went to the match detailing exactly what I said in the dream. So in the dream I basically posted, I was watching Southampton versus Man United, and Van Nistelrooy scored in the 63rd minute to send Southampton down. But of course, I had no chance until I gained this ticket. But I went on to the Betfair forum, posted the message, turned up to the match, and lo and behold, what happened was that Southampton lost 2-1 to Manchester United, and Van Nistelrooy scored in the 63rd minute, as I had predicted all 5 months earlier in January in my dream. So the funny thing about it was that obviously the forum on Betfair completely exploded because people had seen the message, seen what I'd said, and then also watched it come true. Now I was at the match, so I couldn't see any of this happening, but basically the post pretty much went viral, and all of a sudden the BBC picked up on it and wanted to interview me about exactly what had happened. But yeah, no, it was completely true. All the way back in January I had a weird dream, posted about it on the Betfair forum before I went to the match because somebody had given me a ticket, and then watched in complete horror as the dream came true. And I had that really weird moment during the match when that second goal went in, when I looked up and looked at the clock, I can still remember it as clear as day, and saw it said 63 minutes. So yeah, that's not the way that I recommend that you bet on a football match. I know there are stories of this before, but I do wonder whether, because of my analytical ability and my allegiance to Southampton and all of the stuff that I've done over the many years, I wonder whether that had some impact in terms of my brain working overtime to figure out what the score could likely be. I didn't even know when I had the dream that we were playing Manchester United at the end of the season. It was only after waking up and having the dream that I went to check and see what the fixture list was. But yeah, completely true. I successfully predicted 5 months in advance that Southampton would be relegated, but not only that, what the score of the match on the final day of the season was, and who the scorer would be, and the time of the goal. So yeah, if you're going to have a bet at the end of the season, probably not the way to do it, but nonetheless, that's another one of those weird, quirky stories that happened to me that was completely true.